So it looks like former Clippers player is taking a shot at Doc Rivers after the blowout loss in regards to the 76ers losing to the Celtics. I mean, Jason Tatum had one of the games of the ages, definitely, came to play, and that was definitely an awesome outing for him and the Celtics, which they're moving on to the next round. But, you can check it out on several sites, Clutch Sports, Bleacher Report, wherever you want to look at it. It's interesting comments that J.J. Redick had about Doc Rivers because, Doc Rivers, he was in a recent interview about maybe a month ago, and I kind of chimed in on this a little bit in one of my previous videos about Doc Rivers saying that, the Clippers teams, they weren't going to win because there was not enough cooperation and there wasn't enough continuity and they didn't get along as a team. And, basically he said that about both teams. He regards that to just Clippers teams in general that he coached. I mean, that was the Clippers era of Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. And also he was speaking in reference of the Kawhi and PG era. And, when he said that, it really hit a lot of people the wrong way because it's like, why are you talking about other teams when you need to focus on your team getting to the, playoffs at that time, which is about a couple months ago, and focus on your team being the best they can be to win a championship. And here they come short in a blowout loss where they had an opportunity to win in a game 6 at home and blew that. So, I mean, it's really a bad situation, a bad look for Doc Rivers, but it's very, very needed because what J.J. Redick said basically was after the Sixers loss, J.J. Redick put on Twitter, hey, did this team cooperate? Did they cooperate well? I wonder how well did they cooperate, how well they got along. You see what I'm saying? And did this team cooperate to the point where you need them to? Because obviously they didn't either. And really what J.J. Redick is saying is he threw a shot at Doc Rivers, basically saying on Twitter, did this team cooperate well? Because that's the notion that Doc Rivers uses as an excuse to plant to the media to take him off the hot seat. And he's been doing it for years because I said before, Doc Rivers, his coaching style is so old school. It doesn't really resonate with a lot of younger players now because the way he coaches and what he demands out of his players either it's too much or it's not. It's not getting to them the right way. He's not getting through. His message isn't getting through to the players the right way for them to respond the way they're supposed to on the court. There's no way in hell that the Sixers lost that game in Game 6 against the Celtics on their home floor. They had a 7 or 8 point lead, I believe, and Jason Tatum was like 1 for 16. Then all of a sudden, the last 2 minutes, Jason Tatum, started hitting a couple shots back to back, hit a couple threes, hit one in Joel's face, from the corner, which really got him going. And the problem was Philadelphia could not score no points damn near within the last couple minutes of that game. And they blew that game at home. That was their chance to beat the Celtics, go on to the next round and find themselves in the conference finals, the round before the championship round before the finals. So they had themselves in position to do it and they couldn't come through. Now, James Harden, I know he played horrible, but regardless, they still had a chance in Game 6. They blew their chance in Game 6. And Game 6 was a taken for them. So once they blew that Game 6, they go to Game 7, and the rest is history because I just knew they weren't going to come out of a Game 7 in Jason Tatum's house, and Jason Tatum wasn't going to go off for like 50 points. I knew he was going to go off for big numbers, and I knew the Celtics weren't going to lose at home against a team that had them on the ropes, had them beaten, and now the Celtics throw the knockout punch. But really what J.J. Redick was saying was basically what I'm saying. Doc Rivers blames a lot of teams and everything for not having this continuity, but he's just not a good coach overall. I mean, I'll tell you this much. He's not a great coach to me. He's a good coach in regards to he knows how to coach to enough to be an NBA coach. He knows how to coach a team enough to get you through the regular season. And, maybe you can get to the second round of the playoffs, something like that. But unless he has a Paul Pierce, a Kevin Garnett, a Ray Allen, and a Rajon Rondo, a big four like that, the way he had on the Celtics years ago, that's the only way you're winning a championship with Doc Rivers because that team was so superiorly good in every phase rookies, along with having good role players like Leon Poe and Kendrick Perkins and players like that who really played, outstanding defense and, played both sides of the floor, you know what I'm saying, like with the other players that they had in regards to Garnett and everybody. I mean, that's the only way you win a championship with Doc Rivers. But I mean, if you give any head coach all that much firepower in their prime, you're definitely going to win a championship, or at least one. You would think, but since then his coaching style really hasn't been good enough to help teams win, and he's not the leader teams need to get them over the hump. Because one knock on Doc Rivers is him making adjustments is never a good thing, because he's not good at it. He doesn't make adjustments well. Only thing he does, he can give you the X's and O's. He can break it down from a systematic standpoint like that. But when teams make an adjustment, he doesn't really know how to counteract, or he doesn't counteract well. And that's the one thing in the playoffs I feel like that's hurt him throughout most of his, I'd say 95% of his career, coaching teams the way he did. He coached Orlando, the Clippers, and now the 76ers. I mean, he's been around a long time, but, the reason why it hasn't always equated to winning, because like I said, his coaching style really isn't a fit for a lot of younger players, and the way he coaches, it just doesn't get through to the players the way it's supposed to. He basically has his star players go out there and slave and put up all these points and run them in the ground. By the end of the season, they're damn near tired going into the playoffs. And when they're fatigued going into the playoffs and they're not playing with the system the way they should, it doesn't work out in the long run. And then when you play a team that's comparable to your team and that their coach know how to make adjustments, Doc Rivers will stick to what he's been doing. He like, whatever we've been doing, let's just stick to that. Regardless of what they do, let's focus on us and worry about what we're doing. But at the same time, you have to make adjustments as the playoffs go, and as you go through the rounds and the progressions of the playoffs each round. And that's not something Doc Rivers does well. And that's the reason why I think JJ Redick has, taken a shot or taken the time to say what he said about Doc Rivers, or in regards to Doc Rivers, like about the team coordinating and, building a cooperation with the team. Because basically JJ Redick is saying you didn't do that with none of your teams. You didn't do that with the Clippers team with Kawhi and PG, obviously. And you didn't do that with us when he was a part of the Clippers back in the Chris Paul and Blake Griffin era. It was just all rift and nobody got along, and everybody was pretty much, to their groups. And, it was segregation in the locker room and things like that. And, these few guys hung out in this group hung out with that group. It wasn't like a family oriented type place. And a lot of people questioned that over the years, because is that just, a lot of people went on Doc Rivers' side by saying, yeah, it's the players. But at some point, it really might actually be the head coach. And, somebody like JJ Redick, I don't think he would lie about this situation. I feel like he's just telling the truth. I mean, how many excuses can you plant for Doc Rivers over these years that he's not making it to the finals, at least with all this talent he's had? I mean, Chris Paul and Blake that's a lot of talent on that team, just them two alone. Then you got Kawhi and PG. Now you got Joel and James Harden, and you couldn't win a game 6 at home with your crowd. And I mean, I don't understand that. Like, I mean, their offense stays stagnant. It plays one way, and it's no adjustments. It's just very vanilla the way they run their offense and everything. It's just, they win more off of talent than they do of continuity. And that's the biggest problem with Doc River teams. So, as long as that's in play, as long as that's in effect, he's always going to find himself on the bottom end, losing series that, his team should win. And it just makes JJ Redick look right. And based upon what he's saying, all this cooperation that Doc Rivers is talking about, it doesn't make sense, because the only one that's really not cooperating with the team and putting them in the best position is you, Doc Rivers, which is the reason why his teams don't win championships.